pushing and pulling, it won't open, it's no good, and I'm wide awake now. I can't get no sleep.
The Blades Ramble are proudly supported by our main channel sponsor, My Business Group, a group of brands designed to support owners, leaders and managers in business. If you're looking to grow your business, contact mybusinessgroup.co.uk today for more information, or follow the link in the description below. And as this is hot off the presser, we're proudly sponsored by High Point Access Limited, your number one stop shop for all your working at heights and roofing needs. If you mention the Ramble when you're asking for a quote, you'll receive 10% off any works. Find their details in all the links below. Thank you to High Point Access Limited for your continued support of the Blades Ramble.
Blades fans, subscribe to Blades Ramble. Up the Blades.
What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. I am, of course, Jimmy, and this is hot off the presser. Chris Wilder has just finished a very direct press conference, which I was pleased to hear, as always. It has certainly got me fired up for the Watford game, which I had no doubts it was going to do. I hope it got you feeling that way too, because, I don't know, it's just... it's amazing how the terrible start to the season that we've had, how we can still wind up looking forward to a game this weekend, and is it game week 11 or something? And it's just, we shouldn't be as excited for this game as we are, but hopefully we keep seeing like glimpses of light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe this is it. So before I get into hot off the presser, I just want to say this is the first time I've been live since news about Ricky Hatton came out in terms of his cause of death. And we are always, and I don't apologise for this, but we're always very conscious and very outspoken about mental health on the channel. If anybody, in any way, I don't mind if you don't subscribe, if you don't like the videos or whatever, but if you're struggling, certainly my DMs are always open. But please, if you don't want to speak to me, please talk to somebody. Or if you're not comfortable talking to someone, please try and recognise when you are going down a bit of a slippery slope. I have been there. I promise I have been there, and it is a horrible place to be. And without people there to help pull me out of it, I'm not sure where I would be right now. So I don't want to sort of, force those sort of conversations on anybody. But it is so important, I believe, to continue to talk about it, because it affects more people than we'll ever know. And I genuinely believe that to some level, everybody struggles. Some just cope better than others. Anyway, right, moving on to the press conference. I really enjoyed this, but I did have a little bit of a panic, because when I got it up at first, I got a spinning wheel for ages. So I missed the first couple of questions. I've also finally taken someone's advice, well, a few people's advice, Lee Edridge and a couple of other people in the chat. I think Matt was talking about it as well. And I've got a transcript reader. So I've been able to get the transcript done, and I've used that and sort of condensed it down a little bit as best I can in the short period of time that I've got, to try and get a more succinct summary of what he was saying. So if you prefer it this way, then let me know, and we'll continue to do it this way. I think once I get into a bit of a rhythm of doing it, it should be an awful lot easier. So, right, let's. So the first few questions I didn't get, but I know it was about Gyro Riedwald. I don't even know how you say his name properly, to be fair, but he's the Palace CDM, as the kids call him. That's, for us older lot, that's a number 6. That's your central midfielder who likes to break up the play. As close to Vinny Sousa, not that we're expecting him to be a Vinny Sousa, he's a unique player, Vinny Sousa, isn't he? But as close to that mould as we can get, certainly on a free transfer at this level. Came into Palace as quite a cultured signing. He's come through the Ajax youth. He's left-footed, which we know he likes that balance in the middle. Wilder, a Dutch international. He's just turned 29. He can play centre-half or left-back, but Wilder goes on to say later on that he definitely sees him as a number 6. Thinks he's going to be calm and cool in possession. So there were a little bit about that. We did, thanks to the Platinum Ramblers chat, I did manage to find out that he is available for the weekend. And from there, I started to pick up what was being said. So to get into the bits, and as I say, this is me condensing it down, so it might not be absolutely verbatim, but let me know which style you prefer and we can go with the majority. So the questions started with, after the gyro question, gyro, you are the reason I breathe. That's going to annoy myself, to be honest, as well as other people, I'm sure. You mentioned earlier about Palace connections and recruitment. Where are things at the moment in terms of recruitment? This is Gids from Radio Sheffield that we're asking. Andy Giddins, who incidentally was part of the Stephen Bettis interview. Stephen Bettis was on Radio Sheffield yesterday, I think it was. Might have been the day before. Yeah, it must have been the day before. We did a bit of a transcript to that one as well in a similar fashion. That was on our countdown to kickoff. So if you've not seen that already, you can obviously catch up with it on Radio Sheffield socials, on BBC Sounds. But we also did, similar to this, we did a breakdown of that Stephen Bettis hour-long conversation, which I thought were really interesting and quite concerning at parts. So in terms of recruitment, he says, yeah, we've got some good connections down at Palace. A few closet blades down there, he says. We're still putting a few bits together for January. I recently put a document in with the recruitment team with the help of Carl Schieber and most importantly Bettis. My recommendations going into January, and I think that'll be quite favourably received, he said. I'll be sitting down with the board to go through it soon. I'd like to think we've had a positive reaction to it already. They understand what we're trying to do to make the team better. There's still a lot of football to be played before then, though. 13 or 14 games, but we've got things right. We've got to get things right now as well. From my point of view, I don't see any more players coming in now. The group's big enough. I think a few of the younger lads will go out on loan. There'll be some difficult decisions for me to make as well. That's part of my job, but if it benefits the club, then I'm fine with that. And then he asked, well, for a little bit more clarity, I suppose, are you looking at making any big decisions in January or smaller adjustments? And he'd already touched on the fact that, yeah, I'm looking at making some difficult decisions, but he says it won't be big changes, just recommendations, tweaks, things that I think we need to strengthen. I'm not expecting any checkbook signings. It'll be what I've done before. Move a few out, bring a few in, balance it, wheel and deal, really. I took, just is off the transcript, really, but I think there will be a lot of movement in and out. Not necessarily in, but certainly out. I expect a lot of players to go out on loan. I expect a couple of the loans to be cancelled. Louis Barry, Tyler Binden, Ben Godfrey wouldn't surprise me at all. And from that, you can then free up your loan options, can't you? So I expect if Gyro does well, Gyro, that's his name, Gyro, I don't know. Then he will likely be offered a contract if he's done well. So that would fill another spot in the centre of midfield. We'll have to wait and see. The next question was, injury-wise, where are we? You mentioned Chong and Blaster before Hull. He said, yeah, they're working away. Blaster's working hard. Chong the same. He said Kaku, and he meant Okaki. And Christian, and Chukwu, he calls him Christian as well. Good move. Are fighting back too, but they've both had significant injuries. Christian's closer, but he's been out for 10 months. He's been playing with the under-21s, but he's been out for 10 months, ever since we signed him, really. So he needs some build-up before he's ready to go for first-team football. Says, in terms of Chong, I'd expect him to be... I wouldn't expect to see him play before the next international break. And with Ollie, our Blaster, he's been out 9, 10, 11 months. Some lads come back in 8 or 9, others might take a little bit longer. The big thing with Blaster is patience. He's desperate to play. If I told him we were playing tomorrow, he'd do it. He said this before about Blaster, hadn't he? But that's not right for him or the club. We've got to be sensible with a player. Obviously, we want his quality, a player of his quality to come back into the side sooner rather than later, but we're not going to risk him for the sake of a few games. He'll probably come back into first-team training in about 10 days' time, he said. Start integrating and then build from there. I'd say maybe after the next international break or a week or two after that. But there's no point rushing him. He's a big player for us long-term. Let's hope so. Excuse me, I'm still on the back end of this cough and cold thing that I've had. You talked after Hull about using the international break, says Gids, about getting physical and mental improvements. Have you seen that? He says, yeah, definitely. We've had proper, serious conversations, no hiding places. The board's been brilliant as well, to be fair, asking what they can do. he's mentioned previously that they'd offered if you want to take the lads away, and he said no, it's just hard work. We need hard work and a clear narrative for the players. We had a stern meeting on Monday after the Hull game. I still think we should have got 4 results out of 4. Looking through red and white glasses, obviously, but we should have got results against Charlton, Southampton, and definitely Hull. There's a few things we're trying to fix: mentality, confidence, and getting players back to the level that they know they can play at. Some of the senior lads know that they can do more, especially in the top third of the pitch. The subs need to do more as well and push the starters. He says, I'm not... I don't know whether he mentions it here or whether I've actually got it down as... He says, I'm not... does it come with the leadership question? Because there's a leadership question later on, and he mentions specifically Burrows and Cooper as 2 of the names that need to do more. Which I agree with, to be honest. As much as it pains me to criticise Michael Cooper in any way, I think it's fair. My job's difficult, yeah, but that's football, he says. We've got injuries, but so does everyone. Tactically, I want us to be harder to play against, to be more aggressive and more committed, more like a Sheffield United team. We're not getting enough bodies forward, not creating enough. We don't look like we'll get beaten 3 or 4, which is good, but we've got to get the balance right, defend properly, and still be dangerous going forward. Physically, we've worked them hard. Mentally, the message is simple. We're not okay at the moment. And it's not an entitled thing. He was quite keen to say that. It's not because we're a big club in the division. He says, if we were first in the division, I'd want to be first by 5 points. If we were second, I'd want to be first. And we're not where we want to be. And we can't just assume it'll come good because of who we are. We've got to make it happen. You mentioned before it's not a quick fix. Do you still see it that way, says Gids? He says, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a grind. When I came in, the club wasn't in a great place. Everyone saw that after Ipswich. It was tough. I've taken over teams before that were in better shape. This one needs rebuilding, and that'll take time. I still think we've done enough in games to deserve more points. We've been competitive, but I've got to find that edge. We've got to find that edge and that belief. The lads have got to step up now. The group's got enough ability, but we've created our own pressure. We've got to face that and come through it, show their character. How big would that first home win be, says Gids? He says it'd be massive. The fans have been outstanding. They saw a proper shift against Southampton. We should have got something that night, and we all know what happened with the decisions. But the supporters don't come to watch us work hard. They come to see us win. This is our home. We need to make Bramall Lane horrible to play at again. I saw signs of that, the spirit, the aggression, but we've got to put it all together. Work rate, quality, goals. Early on, you said you'd underestimated how it had affected. This was Chris Holt, I think, taking over for the Sheffield Star with Danny Hall's away, I think, at the moment. Early on, you said, excuse me, you'd underestimated how affected the players were mentally. Have you been able to improve that in any way? Has that dissipated in any way? I think was the way you framed the question. And Wilder says, we're trying to restore an identity, an identity that's been missing at the club. He says, over the last 4 games, I think you've seen glimpses of what we want to be. We just need more at the top of the pitch. The young lads had never been in this situation before. Last season, everything was positive. Now it's hard and it's a real test for them. Let's be honest, we're bottom of the table. We're the worst team in the division right now. That hurts. And yeah, people will be enjoying that locally and around the league. But I'm not, and the players aren't. Only we can fix it. Confidence, clarity, identity. That's what we're building. It won't just switch overnight, but we'll get there. Love it. I love Chris Wilder. Fans sometimes think the team plays exactly how you set them up. What's your take? He says, yeah, I hear that. People see the formation and think that's how we want to play, but I'm not setting us up to sit back. We're not a counter-attacking side. He said, I'm not asking the midfield just to pass it amongst themselves and not get it to the forwards. That's not what we're about. We didn't counter-attack against Charlton, against Oxford, against Southampton or Hull. We try and get 5 players on the top line to show ambition. Sometimes it looks safe because physically we're not getting there. He says sometimes it's a physicality problem. They can't physically get there. He's already mentioned the physical challenges that he's facing with the squad at times. That's something we've been working on. We've not played on the counter against Charlton. Again, like I said, defensively, we're steadier now. Not as fragile as before, but we've got to take more risks going forward, more runs, more players in the box. Then there was mention that Shackleton played in the 21s. Is he close to a return? He said, yeah, it was really good to see him back. He's had rotten luck with injuries. He's a real big character. He was missed the most of last season and then got another injury in pre-season. He's an infectious, enthusiastic character that brings great energy. He was trusted by Marcelo Bielsa to play a lot of games in the Premier League for Leeds United, and you don't get that. You don't get to play for Marcelo Bielsa if you're not a good player. He says he's played 45 minutes with the 21s and came through fine, and he'll be in the squad on Saturday. it's a bonus for him and for us. Next question was, your opponents, Watford, has changed their manager. How does that affect your preparation? He says, yeah, it's not ideal, 24 hours before a game, really. We'll do our analysis, but until that team sheet comes out, we won't know exactly how they'll set up. They've got good individuals, and the new manager's experienced and popular there, so they'll have a bit of a bounce. But our focus is on us, what we've been working on these last 2 weeks, and that's what matters. He says, you've spoken about leaders before. Do you feel like you've got enough in the dressing room now? He says, I think some of that's still forming. Excuse me. When new players come in, they don't want to come in straight away, giving it the big one. They come in humble and they settle in. He says, I'm talking about players like Ben Mee, Danny Ings. But now they've got to step forward. The likes of Ings, McGuinness, Chio, they've all played at good levels. It's time to be voices in the changing room. We've lost big characters, like you mentioned Robbo a couple of times, Vinny Souza, Anel. Kiefer's a big character, he said. So it's down to the new lads now, and the young ones too. He says Burrows and Cooper, he mentioned again, Siddy, they all need to step up. That's evolution of the football club. When someone leaves, somebody else needs to step up and replace them. He says the skipper's got to do more, so mentioning Tanganga. And he knows that. He's been top class at Millwall, but he might still be feeling his way in. I've told him, don't hold back. If you need to tell Gus Hamer to do something, you can tell him to do something. If you've got something to say to Tyrese, to Callum, to Harrison, say it. That's leadership. I've seen signs of it in training. The real test is on Saturday. As this period felt a bit like your pre-season? He says, yeah, it has. Obviously, we're a few weeks behind everyone else. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a bit envious of the managers who had that full summer with their squads, but that's football. He says, I'm grateful to have the chance to come in and get a grip of it. The owners and Steve Bettis have been brilliant, fully supportive, honest conversations every week. Stephen even went on Radio Sheffield this week and fronted up some tough questions. That tells you the type of person he is. We've worked well together before and that partnership's strong. I know how he operates. He's low profile but steps up when needed. I want to repay that back in. And the last question I've got recorded, because I've still got a couple of bits just to touch on before I wrap up in the summary. When you say we're not okay, is that the message to the players who maybe needed a shake, was the question. And he said, yeah, 100% they needed that. Supporters see it too. There's always a bit of frustration when the team's not playing as freely as they'd like. I get that. Everyone wants results straight away. We win the first game 5-0, then roll the next few teams over. We all want that. I wanted that too. But once you're in it, you realise it's going to take work. These players, we all need to do more. Bring it together. Work harder than ever and reconnect the whole thing. As for some of the lads whose standards have dipped since last season, yeah, confidence and clarity are big factors. We've talked about it a lot, and we want this, what we want this team to look like, and now we've got to deliver. Really, really good from Chris Wilder. Again, there were just a little bit to finish that the transcript didn't pick up. How do you balance the players who you are thinking of moving on in the summer, basically, was what you were getting at, in terms of, if you think your squad's too big now, how do you keep everybody happy? He says, well, a couple of lads have gone back to the 21s. They need to go out on loan. 5 or 6 of them are out injured currently, and we're working with 21, 22. It needs thinning out. Every opportunity is an opportunity to impress me. I want to be asking myself, how do I get him into the team, like I asked myself with Ben Mee. Ben Mee did that for me. He made me go back into my office and think, how do I get Ben Mee in the side? And he's now playing to the levels that we expected of him. They asked about Gyro. Is it important to know the English game, to know what he's getting into, I suppose? He says, yeah, I think so. Understanding the grind, the experience is really vital. Also to balance up the age of the squad as well. My apologies to keep coughing throughout. Out on the pitch is important too, to make nice, calm decisions because of his experience. In terms of those, is it going to be the same you're asking of him as you are of Ings and me, to not have any sort of bedding in period? You just want him to be a leader from the start, essentially. He says, well, there's different types of leadership. He says, there's the robbos and there's the quiet ones. He says, some by action, some by voice, some by both. I don't expect him to go tearing around the pitch. But sometimes when the quiet ones, like Chio, speak up, it quietly grabs the attention of a lot of the lads, because what they're saying is with good intentions, he said. Is he much of a talker, Gyro? And this was the last question. He says, well, he's only been in 4 or 5 days. I imagine he'll be a nice calming influence on some in the dressing room. We see him as a 6. We want him to make nice, calm decisions, as that's what he's done his entire career. And that pretty much was that. A really strong press conference from Wilder. Direct. We've heard it before in a similar fashion, maybe not as blunt as that, maybe not name-checking individuals quite like he did today. But I think it's positive. I think he's sort of laying down a gauntlet. That's what I've amended the title to, lays down the gauntlet to the players. So that's what it felt like to me. That's what it felt like. He was saying, come on, this is the time you need to step up and make it count. So I'm really looking forward to the game tomorrow. I'm going to jump into your comments now before we wrap up. Paul says, in Tufty we trust, just win our gaffer. Yeah, absolutely right. Jack says, get me back in that stadium. Massive 3 points tomorrow. New signing. Don't know a lot about him, but experience in the midfield. I don't want to keep hearing it'll get better. I want to see it, and that starts tomorrow. Praying for my head if we lose. Don't make me laugh, Jack, because it's on my chest and it's trying to disrupt me. So if anything other than steady, monotone, then I'll struggle. But thank you for your comments, mate. The tidal turn, says Paul. Let's see a proper Blades performance. Give us fans our belief back from a Blade in Spain. Thank you, mate. Hope you're well. John says, hi, Jimmy. I really hope Sariki starts in his best position as wing-back. Adds the pace and physicality we're lacking. Need to get and stay on the front foot. Up the Ramble. Like and subscribe. Thank you, mate. Rich says the gloves are off then. Tough love time. Let's hope it works then. Up the Blades, up all the Rambles. Top man. Mark Meldrew says, now then, Jimmy. Actions speak louder than words now and sounds like harsh ones have been had. Got to start getting some results on the board or it could turn nasty. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, up the Meldrew. Sitting on the fence in terms of mood swing as well, because I noticed you were a worried Meldrew, I think, earlier in the week, weren't you, on some of the Patreon stuff we were doing. But not quite swung to positive. I know Wilder always helps, certainly with my mood anyway. But you're right, actions speak louder than words. So it's going to be a case of how do they do it? How do they perform on Saturday? Can we go out and get those much needed 3 points? Up the Blades, says Matt. Up the Blades Ramble. Come on, let's do this. Louis says, afternoon, mate. Sounds like he's given the players some reminders. It's important, though, that we as fans are positive inside the stadium and give the players as much encouragement as we can. Things will turn, and tomorrow is another opportunity. We must be more willing to get bodies in the box, though, and make positive forward runs. Can't afford to be fearful. Fortune favours the brave. Up the Ramble. Remember to like and subscribe, everyone. He says 10k, very close. 10k before Derby Day. Up all the Rambles. Up the Blades. Thank you, mate. Thank you for your continued support of the channel. I appreciate it, bud. Ray says, the players need to do their jobs tomorrow. No slip-ups. We can win this. Up all the Rambles. Like and subscribe. Up the Blades. Close to 10k for Jimmy. Get it done, Blades. And Jimmy will be live from the famous kitchen. The famous kitchen. Yeah, we said we'll do a retro Ramble when there's something else I'm planning on doing when we get to around that time. So if we get there, I know, never want to assume. Adam says, great to meet you in person at Matilda Shakes gig last week, and you too, pal. Cheers for the photo. Hopefully we see a great response from the international break. I'm expecting a real feisty affair. Up the Blades. Yeah, well, great to meet you too, pal. And what a brilliant gig that was, by the way. If you've not had the pleasure of seeing Matilda Shakes, who are the soundtrack to the Ramble, they do all our music, apart from the daft intros that I put together. They do all our music for the Ramble. James from Matilda Shakes was just on Ramble Football Club last night with Man Mountain and Jord Motson. So yeah, they're just part of the channel now, aren't they? Matt says, Riedwald straight into the 11 as a defensive midfield. I don't think he'll be straight in. I'd be surprised if he was. It depends on, like, is Tom Davies ready to start another game? You'd think so, wouldn't you? Because of the rest that he had in midweek, and he came in against Southampton, played really well, but then came off the bench, I think, against Hull. So surely he's fit enough to go again. I think it may be Tom Davies and Sidney Peck, but I'd expect to see Riedwald in the squad and certainly on the pitch at some stage. Cole says, morning, Jimmy. Excuse me. Been a while since I've caught one of your lives. Hope you're well. I'm very well, mate. Thank you. Hope you are well. That's a lie. I'm getting better, but I'm fine. Thank you. Feel like this season is now about mending the mistakes and getting back on track. Still positive about the season. That is, you're a better man than me for being positive about the season, mate. I hope I can get on that bandwagon at some stage. Rob says, afternoon, Jimmy. Tomorrow's an absolute must-win for squad confidence. Not even a draw will do in my eyes. Thought Oxford game would have given us that confidence, but here we are. Is it? Yeah. Is it a must-win? I think I'm with Rob, really. This is the last chance to get a real shot in the arm back for me. I don't think you're far enough. You're far wrong, pal. Mark says, fair play, Jimmy. Like I said in the chat the other day, keep on talking and speak up if you're struggling. Platinum Group is top tier for that. Thank you, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Keep talking. And if you've not got anybody that you want to talk to about it, then at least be honest with yourself about your struggles and try and seek whatever appropriate help that can be. And that can be a private journey. That can be a medication thing. That can be a discussion with your doctor. Please, don't suffer in silence. James says central midfielders are on notice with the Riedveld signing, a plaster until better signings arrive in January. Have you considered using AI to make the transcript for you and summarise each point? If you haven't, you should. That's what I was going for, pal. That's what I was going for. So let me know if you thought it worked okay. And if not, we'll see. Afternoon, Jimmy. I'm back out of bed, up all the rambles, up the blades, like and subscribe. Pleased to hear it, Dave Morwood, top man. Gaza says, Gyro, Jim, early doors. Yeah. Who's Christian Nachukwu? Chris, as we call him here, and Christian, who Wilder kept referring to because he probably can't appropriately say his name either. And Mark Meldrew says the same. Brett says, well done, Jimmy. Always here for anyone that's struggling. Talking really helps. Some things are bigger than football. That said, bring on a 3-1 win on Saturday. Up all the positive ones. Top man. Cheers, Brett. Jack says he totally forgot about him. Glad the players have been called out. Somewhat time to step up and show why they're wearing a red and white shirt. I can't believe we haven't won at home yet. Last season it was a fortress. Come on, let's get back to that. If we don't set up to sit back, then clearly the formation tomorrow doesn't work for us. But that box is always empty. I don't know if he'll go 2 up top tomorrow. I'd love to see it. Ricky Giles says, hi Jimmy, sorry been away for a few weeks. Don't be sorry, mate. I hope you've had a good time. Feeling much better now. We need to start picking up points now. Up the blades, up the ramble. Howard says, we need wall-to-wall sound tomorrow and 3 points. Irish Howard says, 3 points. Top of the morning to you. Paul says, just win. Get the job done. Gaza says, exactly, Paul, by any means necessary. Cooler King says, I don't like this. We should have got results in all 4 games, or we should be on 7 or 8 points. It's all ifs and buts, and those games have gone. It's wishful thinking. I think it's more... I do think it's looking back favourably. I don't think we deserved anything against Cardiff, if I'm honest. Not that we didn't start well. I think we deserved a draw against Southampton. And I think we were just very unlucky against Hull. So I think he's probably pushing it a touch. But I think the overall message he's trying to get across is we're not far away at all, and these players need to recognise it. Jack says, with the squad being bloated, can someone explain what he means? Because I'm confused. Last season we were short in areas. Is he speaking about the loans and 21s? He thinks there's too many players in the squad, essentially, Jack. There's too many bodies, too many involved in the first team. He wants to whittle it down to more of around 20, 21, I think, around that, in terms of numbers of bodies that he's working with day to day. At the minute, if everybody was available, when Sayers was here, it was up to 31, 32. How do you keep people happy and invested and interested when there's that many bodies in and around the training ground? So a lot of managers tend to want to work with a smaller group if they can. Very well said by Wilder says, free shots. Scott says, was very businesslike from Chris today. Got the feeling there's been a few boots up the rear end this last few weeks. Let's hope it works. Good to meet you at the Shakes gig. Up the blades, up the ramble. Yes, mate, good to meet you too. Thank you for coming up and introducing yourself. This is the view from the mountain. Sorry, mate, my usually fantastic singing voice is slightly impaired at the moment. I will get back on top form soon. Riedveld is a big signing, says the Man Mountain. Could be the answer in there. He's wasted no time in signing him. Looking forward to the game. See you all in Triple Point. Thanks for battling through the cough, Bob Fleming. Don't Bob. When I think of Bob Fleming, it makes me want to cough. Bob Fleming, for those that don't know, He's a fast show character. And then my brother used to do it all the time whenever I had a tickly cough, and then it makes you cough more. Anyway, it's if you know, you know, I think is probably the best way to say it. About time they stepped up, says Gaza. Paul says the 12th man will get them to win up their blades. Sleepy Man says, might be a bit late to say it hasn't already turned nasty. No, I don't think it has. I think it will. I think this is, possibly their last opportunity at good grace from the fan base. I think they will start to lose people if there's only so many like boosts that Wilder can give us before we all start. They need to do more, or we need to do more collectively, or whatever it might be. Can't wait for a ramble on the road trip to Wembley too, says Jack. Paul says 2-0. That's where I went for in countdown to kick off. Jimmy Civil says gutted. The course for Ricky has turned out awful. I'd rather not have known. May rest in... Oh, no. Ricky Hatton. I'd rather not have known. May rest in peace now. Always be a world champion. Up the blades, up the ramble. Yeah, it's... Ricky Hatton was very open about his struggles, which I think is, again, very admirable and brave to do. It can be misconstrued sometimes that it's a little bit look at me, but I don't think anybody would have taken it in that context with Ricky Hatton. And he didn't want for anything, did he? And I didn't know Ricky Hatton. I'd never met him, but he's big friends with Cammy. And him, Cammy, and my dad and Johnny Alec went on holiday, and Paul Gerrard, I think, went as well. Not so long since, and because Ricky Hatton and Cammy have both got places out in Tenerife. So there were Dean Windass there, Ricky Hatton, Cammy, they all sat round and were watching football together and stuff like that. And he's exactly, apparently, again, I've never met him, as brilliant as you'd expect him to be. Boy next door, but didn't, what my point was going to be, didn't want for anything. Like, didn't have to prove anything to anybody. Didn't need, as far as I'm aware, yeah, and this is an assumption, but you'd think after all his boxing success that he didn't need any money. It should have been absolutely sound in terms of money. So it's not, sometimes you just can't fix some of the problems that are going on without real help and support. So it's just a really sad situation, and nobody is immune to struggling, unfortunately. Another trip from Hertz to Sheffield, Hertfordshire to Sheffield, says Watty Bags. Hitching blades, need to win to make it worthwhile. I hope so, pal. Brett says, whatever happens, let's make it loud and intimidating at the lane. Do our bit to make it a fortress again. Momentum wins games, so let's do our part up the blades. 10k soon, Retro Ramble. Like and subscribe. Join the Plats. Nice one, Brett. Top salesman. Thank you. Michael says, with the winding up petition that Sheffield Wednesday had yesterday, does that mean they could be close to folding up as a club? I don't think it'll happen. I think there's loads of... I'm not saying they couldn't be hit with a winding up order, but I think it's very, very unlikely to happen. I reckon 2-1 to us surely today. Today's the real must win. Yeah, I think tomorrow's game is a must win at this stage. Okay, we're going to call it there. We've been going just over half an hour. I'm cutting these rambles. I don't mean to consciously cut them down, but half an hour is good for us, isn't it? So thank you to everybody that's joined us today. I'm going to try and get myself 100% for tomorrow, and hopefully see you all there. We'll be in Triple Point before the game, as always, and then Selena Bar as well. Thank you for their continued support of the Ramble. 2-0 Blades I'm going for. Come on, you red and white wizards. Up the Blades!